Hi, so I'm Diego Imao. I'm the grandson of national artist Abdulmari Imao. I think coming from a unique perspective, compared to maybe my dad, Toy Imao, and his brothers who grew up as my grandfather's career was developing. My grandfather already had a large body of work by the time I was conscious enough to appreciate art. And that large body of work really translated to a house that was every corner had something, had a painting, had a sculpture, there's different brass works. So I grew up in an environment that was really, with my Lola's works especially, very colorful, and all of these repeating motifs like the sari manok, sari fish, okir designs. Parang sensory overload, no? It all felt and blended into each other like one big artwork. So I think my appreciation for my Lola's work especially stems not just from that, how he treated an individual piece, but how these pieces come together and how over time they reflected and evolve in a way. He offers a very unique perspective and take on cultural background and heritage, his religious background and heritage. I think that's also very important because, as my father would always used to say, there is a lot of uh, at least before he became national artist, there was a lot of stigma about how do we treat that kind of art, no? Coming from Mindanao in the south, na very religiously tied, very culturally tied, and some were seeing it as kind of like folk art, which was not on the level of what was generally considered to be like fine art in the Philippines, no? But through the efforts of my grandfather and several scholars and other artists also in Mindanao, that collective effort, the work put together by my grandfather to research and to platform a lot of these alongside his own work and to interpret it into his style, I think does goes a long way. No? I think it opened a lot of doors, especially for a lot of Muslim Mindanao artists too. So I think that's the most relevant thing. And it's also an interesting interpretation of the aesthetics that he worked with and also how he represented the culture of Muslim Mindanao. So the dream is to have a museum, something revolving around his work, and to preserve the legacy of my grandfather's work and to keep it sustainable that even if the family cannot get super involved, at least it's something that can continue on. No? Right now, the work exists primarily my grandfather's body of work, aside from the public installations, of course. A lot of it exists in private collectors, and it's a sentiment I share also with my sisters and my cousins. We were lucky that we were able to grow up in an environment surrounded by his work. No? And I think that in turn created an environment, especially when he would work on his work, when he'd call us up to the studio and ask for a little help, like priming a canvas or getting the right paints for him. I think that informed a lot of our own decisions in life now, how we approach things creatively. Um, Even though not all of us took up fine arts the way my grandfather did, there's an aspect of creativity and expression that I think was fostered a lot by how we grew up in that kind of environment that he adorned the walls and the corners of the house that we all grew up in Marikina. So I think part of what I want um, to do to ensure that legacy moves forward is it's interesting, especially with the partnership now with Foundation Sensa for these commemorative plates. It's a piece that's accessible that people can take into their homes for collectors, for people who have an interest in this art. It feels like giving a piece of what we were able to experience growing up with, no? That it's hopefully something that um, maybe people my age, younger kids growing up in these, these collectors bring them to bring these pieces to their homes, and then their families see it. It's something that inspires that kind of that piques their interest, especially with the bright colors and the motifs and everything. Um, it's something I feel um, stands different, no, and when you put it alongside other pieces in a collection in the body of work of if you're collecting art, if you're a collector of artworks. So I think I want to have a hand in helping that develop and grow, ensuring the accessibility of his pieces and the legacy um, while most of the work is in private collections, there's an aspect that's also available for the public to appreciate and to cement that cultural legacy. And working in partnerships with galleries, with entities like Foundation Senso, advantageous now for families to be able to, maybe they're not, if they're not as involved, there's an opportunity to be able to connect and still develop and ensure the lasting legacy from us. So we're really grateful for the partnership, especially Foundation Senso, a long partnership dating back a lot of different projects and collaborations together, and then this commemorative piece that we're gonna have at MOCAF. So it ensures the family can take steps to preserve the legacy of the artist. On my side, my mom, my father just they take me around, and I'm slowly dipping my toes into it and understanding how what it to be more involved in helping manage the body of work of an artist, not just of my grandfather, now but also of my father's works. And I think it's very interesting how there is a very strong community of very helpful people and entities that support each other artists, galleries, patrons that really come together, you know? And everyone gets, it's very exciting when you have all these people in the room and the energy is really good. And I think that goes a long way in preserving the body of work and the legacies of especially established artists like my grandfather, but also in encouraging all these upcoming artists who are maybe scared about how they're coming together to put their work, because there are so many people with experience who are willing to lend a hand and to collaborate. So I think just be open to a lot of that opportunity to collaborate, to talk to people, to meet people. Every opening is a way, when you make a friend, it goes a long way in community building and helping each other out, especially in the arts industry here in the Philippines.